So I wanted to do a quick little video on a very interesting verse within the Bible, specifically what the original Greek is thought to be. And that verse was Matthew 5:5. I'm going to be honest, I did that from memory, so it could be a completely different verse. I hope it's the verse that I'm actually talking about today. But in essence, the verse that I wanted to talk about was, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Now, that's a very interesting verse, right? And I think with a lot of the teachings of Jesus, there kind of comes this sense of, is he telling people to be meek and passive and whatnot? And while there's definitely something to be said about the Gospels being about this message of, don't be, some aggressive dickwad or whatnot, it's more nuanced than that, right? And so I wanted to get into the Greek of what this means, right? So number one, the first word that I wanted to go into was, and I might be saying this wrong, makarioi. And so makarioi is a Greek word that means blessed. I mean, that's obvious enough. But the interesting thing about this is that it was originally used for the Greek gods. It denoted almost some sort of divine favor, divine status, or whatnot. And so what makes this usage interesting is that it's used to describe very, humble, everyday people that, you might meet in your daily life, rather than, even a king, which, it might more likely be used for a king than for, a peasant. And it's definitely going to be used for a god. And so it kind of plays into that whole notion of, following the teachings of Christ makes you a son of God, and, accepting him makes you makes God your father and whatnot. And so the next word that I want to go into is praus. And this is where the actual meaning of meek comes in, right? Praus was something used for a warrior's horse, right? A horse that is very powerful, that is very, capable and whatnot, but it's under the control of its rider, right? So instead of this verse essentially meaning be meek and mild like a mouse, it's saying you should be capable of acting within the world, going to another verse in the Bible, be shrewd as a snake, but it's also saying be innocent as a dove. You need to have the restraint to be able to use that correctly and morally, and that usually happens under the power of God, right? And so that's what makes the verse so interesting. All the Beatitudes or the Beatitudes are like that. I really love going into the Greek for this. I will be linking the Bible Hub, I think, in the description of this video, but honestly, if you're interested in getting into the original language of the Bible, I would just recommend going on ChatGPT and asking what is the original language of this verse. That's how I started out doing this, and it's a really easy way of doing it, so I would, if you're interested in that, it's my advice. But yeah, I mean, the Greek of, not just this verse, but also just of the Sermon on the Mount in general is very interesting and gives you a much more vivid picture of what's going on in the mind of Christ and even the mind of his followers as, it goes on. So, all right, that's all. See y'all.